Welcome to the Rick Helps Real Estate Show, another morning edition live. And unless you're watching it on the replay, welcome. I had a good Father's Day. It was kind of fun. I kind of had to laugh. My oldest son called me from California, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm obligated to give you a phone call today." And I said, "Okay, hold on a second. Let me set the timer." Oh, it's always fun to hear from him. Got a call from all three of my boys yesterday, but two of them are working, so I didn't get to see them, and the other one's out of state. But I still had a great Father's Day. Hope you did as well if you're a dad out there. And we are going to look at what we call bummer right now. There's a new survey that came out, home buying sentiment survey that Fannie Mae puts out, and you buyers out there you're just bummed. Can't blame you. We're going to take a deep dive into the numbers, but I do want to clarify something that we said the other day on the show, and I got a little bit of blowback from it. And that was, we said, 6% interest rates are normal. Now, when we say that, I understand we have an affordability issue, but that doesn't mean that the mortgage rate of 6% over time is not a normal rate. I get it. 6% at $200,000 is a far cry different from 6% at $400,000. Affordability is a totally different measurement. And that's what we're pushing up against today is affordability is tough for everybody. But it doesn't negate the fact that 6% is normal. So I just want to clarify that as we go through some of these numbers. And it's in no way saying, hey, 6% is normal. We're 6.9 now. Get out there and buy. What's the matter with you? We're not saying that. So I hope that clears that up a little bit. But what are we talking about with this survey? It hits a new low. We decreased by 2.5 points in the survey. And it says here, consumer sentiment towards housing declined from its recent plateau as an increasing share of consumers struggle to find the positives in the current housing market, says Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae Senior Vice President, Chief Economist. While many respondents expressed optimism at the beginning of the year that mortgage rates would decline, that simply hasn't happened. Yeah, the whole marry the house, date the rate thing that everybody thought was going to happen hasn't happened. Thought we were going to see lower rates. It doesn't really matter when it comes to rates or anything. Real estate is always more optimistic in January than any time of the year, as is anything else. Beginning of the year is a new beginning. Good morning, Renee. It's so it works its way into the real estate market as well. The percentage of respondents who say it's a good time to buy a home decreased from 20% to 14%. That's huge. Percentage who say it's a bad time to buy increased from 79% to 86%. 86% of you out there go, no bueno. As a result, the net share of those say it's a good time to buy decreased 13% month to month. Good or bad time to sell? Well, people aren't feeling that way. They're saying the percentage of respondents said it's good times to sell has decreased from 67 to 64, while the percentage that say bad times to sell has increased 32 to 35. It's you can be a contrarian in this and say, buy when everybody else is selling and sell when everybody else is buying. For sellers out there, it's not that bad, and we're going to take a look at some of the numbers. But the buyers, I get it. Like, oh man, here it is, and here's the chart. So here's bad time to buy is the blue line up here, and it's just going up, and away like a balloon. Good time to buy, nope, we're not feeling it. So that's it right there in a chart saying, it's not feeling good. And unless we get a break in prices or interest rates, that sentiment's probably going to be there. Now, on the flip side, there's plenty of people out there, enough that's keeping the market moving. And when I look at my 7-day moving average here, you can see that, in fact, our sales are kind of maintaining a little level status here, a dippity-doo down here because it's hot in the summertime. Seasonally, it always does it. New listings are starting to decrease just a little bit, but nothing alarming in those numbers. But we are seeing, as far as listings under contract, that's starting to go down. And again, it did last year, but we are below last year, as you can see right here. This number right here is 2007. So are we going to see a repeat of 2007 and 2023, which was a terrible, terrible year for selling real estate by numbers, that remains to be seen. The interesting thing that I'm seeing now, they finally updated this chart. Yahoo. They do it. I wish they'd do it more than once a month, but they don't. And it said April for the longest time. I didn't see May. Now we finally got one here for June 1st. And this is the Cromford Demand Index and Supply Index. And you've heard me say, if these lines cross right here, then you can expect to see some downward pressure on pricing. And they've now met. So they're kissing. And if the trend continues where we are now, they're going to cross. You're going to see some downward pressure on pricing. All of this is all dependent on interest rates. If interest rates go down further, these could spread apart a little bit. But indications are, and everything that we see right now is that rates probably are not going to budge much all summer, if at all. Where we're at right now, as you can see in the ticker below, is 6.99. I suspect that's going to be the happy spot for a while. As the data comes out every week, it goes up a little bit, it goes down a little bit, but that's where we're at. Now, if you look at our overall market here, you can see that the sellers markets are still Chandler, Fountain Hills, Avondale, Tempe, Mesa, Gilbert, Glendale, Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Peoria. But Peoria, not so much. But this is the market where sellers are not having a hard time. So when you're looking at that sentiment, keep in mind that's a national average, a national survey. But for sellers in these markets, it's not a problem. Any index above 110 is considered a seller's market. Anything below 110 is considered either balanced or a buyer's market. And the buyer's market right now is down here where all the new construction is, applying a lot of pressure to resales. So Surprise, Queen Creek, Maricopa, and Buckeye, buyers are having an easier time out there. And when you are out there looking to buy and you're looking at new construction, they're throwing a lot of incentives at you, $40,000, $50,000, help you with your landscaping, your closing costs, and they're buying down the rate. But don't walk away from the resale homes because, you know, new construction doesn't put a pool in for you. And a pool can run major bucks up to almost $100,000. And you're not going to get that with new construction. You're going to have to finance that later. Whereas resales already got a pool built. It's already landscaped. Yes, you're not getting the $50,000 in incentives out there that the builder's giving you, but the average seller contribution right now is still $9,400. Just saying it's worth a look. Try not to walk away from people that are selling their existing homes. You might be surprised at what you can get. And as I was seeing a comment that was coming on our live show on Friday about an offer, and she said they're still $100,000 apart on what they're offering and what they're willing to accept. An offer, even a lowball offer that gets rejected, try to keep it alive, because an offer is an open indication, an open invitation to negotiate. So if you've submitted a low offer and they kick it back, have your agent get a hold of the listing agent and go, hey, let's stay in touch. Let's try to keep this alive. Sorry that this offer came in and it was low, and I'm sorry that your sellers didn't like it, but we'd like to see if over time, if that house isn't moving, if they're interested in any other counter offers that we can send you, keep it alive. Because eventually you may be able over time to get them to go, okay, all right, I'll entertain that offer. And so it depends, house by house, seller by seller. Here are some of our gauges here, and this is our sales price per square foot. The annual appreciation is showing we're up 3.6%. Who'd have thunk, right? Annual appreciation, average square foot up 4.4%. And this is the next one here, shows the Cromford Market Index. And we just took a peek at that, but it's going down, 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 and it's sitting at 104. So the total market has now hit balanced. Whereas I showed you where Chandler and Gilbert are not balanced. The overall market is very, very balanced. Demand is low. Inventory has increased. So here we are sitting right there in that yellow zone, showing a balanced market. So that's good. That should help buyers. And like I said, The Cromford Market Index showing that things are starting to change a little bit. Could also be good for buyers, but I don't expect major changes in pricing. Stephanie here says, I found the buying process much better with a new build developer than I did with resales. Resale sellers are not prepared to negotiate. I agree with that. I think resale sellers, they're not, the reason they're not prepared is they've been in an environment where selling has been so easy for several years now, and they saw what their neighbors got. And so they're kind of feeling like they can dig in a little bit more. Now, the ones that are on top of the data and looking at the numbers, realize that they probably should negotiate. If they've got a good agent, the good agent preps them for what's going on in the market. And so you can dig in on your house price and stay there, and it's probably going to sit there. So if you're not willing to negotiate, I wouldn't list. Is there a chart that gives us a view of inventory pre and post pandemic? Just wondering when we get back to historic norms. Yeah, let me get to that, Renee, in a couple of minutes. Be happy to show you. Here's inventory here, just showing the last 30 days. And I think we're about actually 200 homes close to our pre-pandemic inventory. So active listings here showing that our monthly change and is active, including under contract and contingencies, are 21,000. Active without those is 18,000. So we're right in the middle as far as a monthly change, and we're a little bit lower as far as our inventory's higher compared to last year for sure. Under contract is dropping, but not by much. Expired listings is kind of staying relatively flat. Canceled listings, people aren't really giving up. But let me go back, as long as we've got that topic there, and take a look at active listings, and we'll go back a few years here and see what we can find. So bear with me while I look at this. And like I always say, talk amongst yourself. I'm going to go to by topic here and say inventory and months. No, that's not what I want. Listings. Why can't I find it? It always does this to me. There we are. All areas, all types, excluding weekly chart. Renee, I found it. Here we go. Let's go back and let's look at 218 and 219. Let me remove 20 and 21 just to clean up the chart a little bit, and even 2022. So here we're at 17,000 compared to 2019. We were at 16.6. So we're higher than pre-pandemic levels. You would think that we would see more pricing pressure at that level of our inventory. But in 2019, what happened was the inventory every week was going down, and people were pretty optimistic about the market. Then along comes 2020. We'll put that in there. And you can see that in 2020, our inventory dropped all the way down to 6,326. And if we compare 2017, and again, I'm going to get rid of 2020 and 2023, 2017, we were at 18,712. So we're pretty close to 2017 levels. So it's safe to say in our market that we are at pre-pandemic levels. And now what does that mean? Well, pre-pandemic levels, we didn't see the pricing that we have now. That's for sure. That shot up in 2020 and 2021. And so it's really hard to compare apples to apples. I have a comment here from Nick. My new construction in Queen Creek is set to close on August 8th. Should I lock in my rate now or wait until we're 15 days out? How do you anticipate the CPI data will look next month? Nick, that's a question for your lender, and your lender stays pretty much on top of that daily rate. It's hard for me to predict when you should lock. I'd say lock when you feel good about where it's at. You know, today it's 6.9 on the national average. If you're going through a builder, I'm sure they've got a buy down that pulls it down even further. The one comfort thing about when you're locking is you're comfortable with your rate. It's not going to fly up. You're closing in August. I don't know where the CPI numbers are going to come in. I've kind of been rather pessimistic about that. And we did a survey here on the channel, and over 63% of you thought the CPI was going to come in higher last week, and it didn't. I was kind of in that camp. There's too much government spending going on to hold CPI down. And it's funny how the central bank looks at all of the components of what goes into inflation, but they ignore the two things that are hitting you the most: housing and food. Oh, and fuel. So they look at everything else. Well, I mean, I'm paying for my housing. I'm going to the grocery store and I'm putting gas in my truck. So those are hitting me pretty hard, and that's hurting my payment. So I think that inflation is doesn't seem to be drifting down that much. And I don't know. I wish I could answer that for you, Nick, but I don't have much of a crystal ball. I know Pat with Price Mortgage, who we have on the show here quite a bit, who I work with closely. He stays right on top of that stuff and says, looking at his charts and looking at all in the bond market, and he's been pretty successful week over week of knowing when to lock a rate. I know a couple of weeks ago, because we're working on a client right now, he goes, I'm not going to lock yet. I think I'm going to wait a week based on what I'm seeing. And he was right. A week later, it came down. We go back to this chart and we can look at list price for square foot. This one's interesting, folks. Our listing prices per square foot are back what they were in June, it says, last year. That doesn't seem right. I know we're back where we were. Oh, that's average sold price to list price. We are back to average list price per square foot where we were at the beginning of the year. So people priced at the beginning of the year, priced higher and higher and higher, and said, well, that didn't work. And now they're back down at to the beginning of the year. So the optimism has drifted off. And that's, again, back to what we just had the comment from Stephanie saying, the resellers are just not budging. That takes time. And time on market will bring the price down. Nothing else will do it. You can stomp your feet, clap your hands, call every day. It's just time on market. If you thought you could sell your house in 30 days and it didn't, then day 31, you're probably going to pull it down a little bit. If you're still sitting on the market 60 days, you're going to pull it down even farther. So it's just a matter of watching that house that you wrote an offer on and saying, well, are they there yet? And, and you might lose it. It might go away, but we have time. And that's the way you want to approach this market, because our days on market right now, when we look at that data, it shows that sold this month in active listings, says here 65 and 78 active listings are on the market 78 days. And I was talking with Jessica this week and said, a lot of people are looking down the street and seeing more for sale signs on their street, and they think that our listings are exploding. Well, you're comparing it to a couple of years ago when there were no signs on your street. On top of that, it's taken a little bit longer for the home to sell. It's not selling in a matter of days. It's probably taken 30 days, and you go under contract in 30 days, and then you close another 30 days out there. So that sign that's been in the yard has been sitting out there a minimum of 60 days. So now you think the market's dead, when actually it's kind of normal. 60 days getting ready to close. So there's a lot of perception out there as well. And the success rate, though, is not alarming. It's 75.6, and the historic average is 69.2. In other words, if you list your house, what are the odds of you selling it? Not as bleak as some people are telling you, but it depends, again, on the neighborhood. And we are seeing that there's definitely a softening coming up. We're not seeing a crash. You're going to have something, kind of a black swan event, to come in. And for rates to really come flying down when people are waiting for that, that's only going to happen if we have some real economic strife. So if something's going on in our market and our GDP is plummeting, then they're going to have to juice things up a little bit. Honestly, if the central bank was going to help the current administration and kick things into gear, they would have had to do that about a year ago. Monetary policy takes about 12 to 18 months for it to start to circulate into the system. We're seeing a slowdown now. When did they raise rates? Last year. So if they wanted to, this talk, and you see the comments all the time, well, they're going to lower rates because it's an election year. Well, they should have done it last year, because The impact that we're seeing on home sales now are a direct result of not what they did with interest rates today, but what they did last year. It takes time. So if they're going to pump up the economy, the train has left the station. Jeremiah here says layoffs from corporate debt refinancing at higher rates is a risk. Yeah, there's a lot of risks out there. There's I am seeing though that in the alarm bells that were going off about commercial real estate seem to be softening a little bit. They're finding new tenants. They're refinancing. It doesn't look like it's going to be as bleak as everybody thought it was. The banks set aside billions and billions in reserves, getting ready for a big crash in commercial real estate that we're still looking at. Corporate refinancing could be debt refinancing could be a problem. But corporate earnings right now are doing quite well, and that's why the stock market's doing good. So for every good number that's out there, there seems to be a bad number that's out there, and it depends on what side of the fence you're on. That's the way real estate is. I can think of a good reason to buy here, and I can think of a good reason not to buy here. And it all depends on your personal situation. People that are selling right now are selling because they have a darn good reason to sell. They're either moving or they figure that they want a smaller house or a bigger house, and they're not having a problem. So it's a very interesting real estate market. No alarms, regardless of where prices are and where interest rates are. Everybody likes stability. It's nice to see an interest rate that's not going way up and way down on a weekly basis. You can kind of count on, you can do things with a calculator and go, okay, it'll probably still look like this next week. And so the markets like stability. And right now we have stability. Is it slow? Yeah, realtors and title people and lenders are, where Pat used to talk about when it's a good year, they have the holiday party at Stake 44. And this year they had a cheese platter in the break room. So it's been that kind of a year. And so it's slow. We're doing well. Jessica and I, we're not complaining at all. But for most of agents that are out there, particularly new agents, it's just been slower than slow. And when I say slow, you can see here on the ticker below, 2,800 contracts. I remember back in 2021, I don't see us getting at that kind of volume again for quite some time. But we had like 4,300 new listings come on in a week and 4,400 go under contract, sucking up more than what was coming on. So every week, the new listings were continuing to go down. So now we've got 3,800 new listings coming on and only 2,800 contracts. That's the story of supply and demand right there. Unless that 2,800 comes up or new listings come down, at that ratio at 73%, we're still okay. Prices kind of stay right there. You get down in the 60s, you're going to start seeing lower prices. So if the new listings continue to grow, and the new listings coming on are what I like to look at. The existing listings are growing simply because sales are continuing to go down. So we're growing at about 100 a week, yet the amount of new listings that are coming on are not growing at 100 a week. We have a comment, Peoria and Mesa, which would be better area to buy sales, a single family home? Boy, that depends, especially Mesa. Mesa's got high-end $1 million homes, low-end, middle of the road, depending on what part of Mesa. It also depends on your commute, where you want to be. If we're going back and looking at the, if I can look at our chart here and look at Peoria, it's got a Cromford Market Index of 113 and Mesa's got 145, but Peoria doesn't have as much high end as Mesa. And in Mesa, it's really kind of a pocket next to the McDowells. And so I guess I would say they're both about the same, apples to apples. Mesa has neighborhoods that are, I would say, undesirable in some parts, and the houses are really run down. Peoria does not have that. Peoria has a much easier commute. If you like going up to Sedona, Prescott, Flagstaff, it's not as far. Even going to Vegas versus Mesa cuts off about half hour, 45 minutes. So people like to live up there so they can be closer to that. And they have some pretty decent views up there as well. So I know I'm kind of driving around the building a lot there trying to answer that question for you, but it depends. It depends on what you're looking for. Now there's, you can go in and do a little more deep dive analysis on some of the cities. You know, you can go into, I shared a website and see if I can pull it up here now. It was yesterday that I shared, and oh, you're welcome by all means, and thanks for watching. What the heck was that called now? I can't remember it. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's all powered by AI, and you can go in. It's unbelievable how much stuff you can look at. Now, it's not as good as I thought it would be because artificial intelligence right now, it doesn't really crawl along the web. It kind of takes takes a look at current data, but it doesn't. It's called flyhomes.com. Let me look this up. Flyhomes. It doesn't go and look up current data. In other words, you can say, what are interest rates today? And it sends you an apology letter. Well, you'll have to look that up on other sites. So it doesn't. But if we look at, let's look at Peoria here for a second. Peoria, right here. And it says this is the first AI search. Okay. Let's take a look at market analysis. That's what I really wanted to look at, Peoria. See, the trick to that is spelling it right. Peoria. I need more coffee. There we go. Okay, here we are. Now it's showing you the minimum price, the median, the maximum price of 3.25 million. But down here, it shows you that Peoria right now is a cold market. Buyers can probably take their time. It says the same thing about Phoenix. It shows you the price per square foot, price drops. Again, this is flyhomes.com. Go to that, put in Peoria, put in Mesa, and drive around, take a look at it. I thought this thing was very interesting. Again, I didn't find that it did as much AI stuff as I thought it would when you ask it questions. Even some of the questions that it prompted up itself didn't show me too much. It says, how's the housing market in my area? You click on that, and I don't know what it's going to show me, but it comes up with ChatGTP. That's what it does. And so it gives you some stats about the Phoenix market. It's kind of fun. You might spend about a good half hour doing that. Now, on my site, rickhelps.com, you're hooked up directly to the multiple listing service, and you can look at homes just like I do. And so it's a service that I pay for to be able to provide the MLS links. And we've got, you can look by city here. So you can scroll down and just look at any city that you want, including Tucson. And up here on the top, see where it says download the recent activity report right here? Well, I expect that to come up any day now. So I looked on the Armless, and the May report is out, but they haven't put the PDF out yet. So it's from our multiple listing service and put together by a guy named Tom Ruff. And as soon as I get that update, I'll let you know. You can click on that right here, and it gives you all the market stats for our market. And it's pretty detailed. And this will be coming out for the month of May. And you know what? This is better than what I want to say, the Case Shiller reports that you see, because those are backlogged. Those are about 3 months out. So he gives a lot of commentary. And he also quotes the Cromford market as well, and a lot of links and stuff that you can look at. And I'm scrolling here, and I'm not even showing you what it looks like. So here it is. And so the May edition is coming out any day now. So watch for that, and I will let you know. And when we do that, and those of you that watch us Friday at 3 o'clock, we're moving that to Thursday at 5. 3 o'clock seems to be getting away, and a lot of weekend plans for people. So we're moving it to more later in the afternoon at 5 o'clock. And for those that have been asking, what happened to Jackie and Ruby? Well, Ruby's still floating around. She's doing great. She's working her butt off because Jackie had some major shoulder surgery. She rode horses competitively when she was younger. Folks, they literally had to disconnect her arm from her shoulder and rebuild it. And she is having a devil of a time recovering from this. It's tough. I got a message from her this week. She thought by now that she'd be on the mend. and she's not. So she can only voice text us. She can only use her non-dominant hand to communicate with us and email us. And she's trying her best to stay on top. Ruby's helping her with everything. So we haven't kicked her off the show. She just hasn't been able to get on. And I'm looking forward to that date so we can have Ruby and Jackie on, because we really had fun putting those shows together. And it's so hard to see what she's going through. It just breaks my heart. So pray for her. She's in tough shape and trying to recover from this stupid thing. She got an infection, and then IV antibiotics made her sick. And it's just not fun, doggone it. But thank God for Ruby for helping her out at the level that she's been doing. So I hope everybody has a great Monday. Take on the rest of the week and have a great day. And by all means, stay cool and be careful when you're in the woods. Don't start any more fires. Take care. Thanks.